Okay, great. Let me just start. My name is Rukshana Tabassum, and I'd like to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart and on the behalf of my producers as well for watching my film, Apples and Oranges. It's been an honor, to be very honest, to showcase it for you, to you guys, and I'm so glad that that film sort of spoke to you guys in whatever little way it could, and I'm really happy to be here. So, Sumit had actually given me a couple of questions to start the session with, and I will keep taking other questions as they come. So, what they wanted to know was why did you come into this profession? Okay, so see, I come from Assam, and my parents, they both are like from the academics, and there was like no history in the family of anybody ever saying that they want to be in filmmaking. I didn't even know, to be very honest, that there is something called filmmaking that one can take up as a career. And but I didn't even know, like, I've always had doubts as a child that if I'm creative enough, and I didn't even know what it meant to be creative, to be very honest. So it so happened that, like any other child from Assam, they wanted me to become either an engineer or a doctor. And so post my 12th standard, they took me to Delhi and they put me in coaching center for engineering. And and I was never really inclined to do engineering at all. So spending like 1 week at the coaching center, I realized I was not meant for it. And then I kept kind of like figuring out, like what is that I wanted to do. So anyway, I left that coaching center, and then there was this interview. And by the time Delhi University, all the colleges, they finished off with their admission process, so I couldn't apply for any. But I did not want to like lose that year, so I sat down for this one exam that was happening in British Council for this college called Wigan and Lee College. And then I enrolled myself in advertising there. And the only reason I enrolled there was because they were offering me an internship on the very first day in an ad agency. So then I got into an ad agency, and in the ad agency, I was put in a department because I didn't know what I wanted to do. They put me into media planning. But while being in the ad agency, I kind of interacted with a lot of people who are in the creative field in that agency. And then slowly I realized that that's why I really enjoyed it. So I shifted departments, and then I got in touch. I met one filmmaker during my process in this ad agency. And so I had just written like one spec TVC, which I narrated to him. And he said, okay, you should probably study filmmaking. And that's when I applied to Jamia Millia Islamia, and then I applied to FTI. And then when I got to FTI, that's where I actually, that's how it all happened, that's how I got into this profession. So that's my journey, how I came into this profession. There was no planning, it was all like by chance, I would say. Okay. So the next question is, who was the inspiration in film? Okay, like any other kid, I grew up watching a lot of Bollywood films. Like not a lot of Bollywood films, because it was, to be very honest, never encouraged to watch films at home. I was only like allowed to watch films on Sundays when when they used to screen this classics in the afternoon slot, these regional films where they would show like Kannada films, Bengali films, and Tamil films and things like that. So I would watch those, and then I would once in a while go for these children film festivals that used to happen like once in 2 years, and that's when I got to watch Gopika and Bhagabayan, and I got to watch other Satyajit Ray films, and I really used to enjoy it. And somehow I knew the fact that I really liked telling stories, or kind of, like, but I didn't know like what one had to do to become like to make those films, or there's a profession that is there where one can make these films. So yeah, so I don't know, as an inspiration, I would say literature also played a big role in my life, because I used to read a lot of books. And I think somehow the inspiration came more from performing arts, books, and things like that. And by watching some of those films, which influenced me subconsciously without even me knowing about it, as a child. So there was nothing like that. I idealized any director, and I wanted to be like that person ever, because I was just not aware, and that's why yeah, so that's about it. I only knew about the regular professions, to be very honest, at that time, like the doctor, engineers, and the architects, and the regular professions that are looked in the hierarchy of professions that are like considered like good professions. So okay, the third question is, do you prefer working on your script or other stories? Now, to be very honest, like, I just recently made two films which are in the post-production right now, which are stories that has been written by others, like other filmmakers, other scriptwriters. But so far, till Apples and Oranges, I have been writing my own scripts. But yeah, I'm completely open to work on ideas which are like conceived by other people or scripts that are written by others. But yeah, of course, there's always an advantage when you are writing it yourself, because a lot of times you kind of keep a lot of things in mind. A lot of your personality comes when you write it from a very initial stage. So it's easier to translate it better on screen that way. But also, if you have a good rapport with the script writer that you're working with, even if it's someone else's script, that is the same thing, to be very honest. So it completely depends on like how what kind of relationship you have with the script writer. So yeah, I prefer both actually. Any good story kind of appeals to me, yeah. What's your thinking on working with children as subjects? Okay, let me just share with you this experience that I've had while pitching films, children films in India. So to be very honest, like there are very few people in our country who wants to produce content for children, because while I was working in this corporate called Viacom 18 Motion Pictures, and I had developed this one film for children, and then these companies usually do these market research kind of stuff to figure out whether they're going to get their money back and things like that. And they came back to me and they said, okay, like this film is not going to make money because it's not a it's a children film, and we are looking at family film. I didn't understand what's the difference. So children in our country consume content which are actually primarily made for adults, or they go for dubbed versions, or they go for Western content like a Harry Potter or Peppa Pig and things like that. There are very few homegrown content that we have for children, and I think it's an extremely important thing which we need to relook at, because I feel, see, like here the question is of shaping a whole new generation. So whatever you're feeding them is probably their thoughts, their ideas are going to shape the future of this country. So I mean, entertainment is at one place, but there is also another aspect through which you kind of educate these children without making boring content or without making preachy stuff, where you kind of help them see different perspectives, you kind of help them see life through different lenses, introduce them to different cultures, different thought processes, so that there is more tolerance in this world. And especially now, I feel, when we are actually heading towards a world which is so interconnected, and a world which we absolutely cannot like ignore the other. It's very important to have that kind of knowledge about other cultures, so that you understand that you are a part of a global community rather than just being a part of a very small wherever we come from, basically. So yeah, so my thinking on working on children's subject is extremely important. So like I'm really happy that I got a chance to work with this company who produced Apples and Oranges as well. And because, you know, usually they are always taking up these topics which they are making films on, which are extremely relevant to today's times and to the kind of problems that they're facing, because the kind of problems which we faced are very different from the kind of problems the children today are facing. So then we have CFSI, of course, which is a government body to finance films for children. And but since it's a government body, there are too many bureaucratic levels, and, you know, eventually content don't get made very easily, you know. So because I had this experience of making my last film, Cake Story, which got a national award in 2018. So it's kind of tough, but then I am really hoping that things will change, and this is something I really, really want to kind of take it up. I mean, like, we have been taking it up, but, you know, take it up in a larger level so that we can make more content for children. Okay. What's your advice on starting with filmmaking? Okay, that's an interesting one. See, I think today we have, like, filmmaking has is no longer it's so accessible to everyone, you know, with the digital cameras and the like the DSLRs everyone has a DSLR, everyone has an iPhone. Most of the people have an iPhone or a phone which has a very good camera. Most of the time we have apps which have, like, good editing softwares, or, you know. So I think if anybody wants to explore filmmaking, you should just do it, you know, like, not wait. And there are so many videos on YouTube which kind of help you to understand, like, how to write a basic script, and how to kind of dissect them into scenes, or how you can use your friends as actors, and, like, you know, make these small films which will give you an understanding of how things work, and edit it on the app. Like, for example, I'll just tell you, okay, so because of this lockdown, I think so there is absolutely there's very less work happening right now, and suddenly I think it's a defense mechanism. I was like, oh my God, I wish I was an animation film director. I wish I was like an animator, because then I didn't have to go out to shoot. And because of Corona, obviously, there are no shoots happening. So I was like, I started looking for apps through which I could do animation. So I found this very amazing app called Flipper Clip, and Stop Motion Studio. And then I ended up making a 4-minute stop motion film with it, you know. So I think, if you want to start, if you want to, like, try your hands on filmmaking, you should just do it, because I see so many young kids these days, like, making amazing videos using these technologies. Like, I always say, it's not important on what device the film has been made. What is important is, like, you know, how you have translated what is in your head and eventually into that art form, whatever you are trying to make. It's like, you know, it doesnn't matter if an piece of art is done on an old newspaper, but if it can kind of convey what you want to, then of course it's, like, more priceless than doing it on a very expensive canvas. So I think the same theory applies to everything. So I think I should just start. Okay. Tell us your journey so far. I think I have already covered it a lot. So yeah, so I came into filmmaking completely by chance, and then I went to FTI, and it kind of opened like a very new dimension for me, because I got to watch films from all over the world. And, you know, like, slowly, there was, like, a kind of phase where I was doubting my capabilities, because, you know, you're watching, like, so much world cinema, and then you want to definitely be at a certain level, and then you kind of have self-doubts and all of that. But I think it's a part of the journey, because one has to go through that, have these self-doubts, but then also figure out that, you know, you don't have to be someone else. Eventually you have to find out your own voice, like, what is the story that you want to tell. You know, what is it that, why do you want to make a film, you know. Like, I always tell myself, it's not important to make a film, it's not important to make an artwork, like, but if there is something going on inside and you want to express it, then of course, then that's the most honest expression comes out of it. Uh, so yeah, so it has been I think Like for example, I started painting also like a couple of years back, which I never thought I'll ever do. But again, you know, like there were things that were going inside me at one point in my life, which I was unable to kind of express it through writing. So I thought, okay, what is the other medium that I can do? So I started painting. So yeah, for me, filmmaking is like it's a medium which helps me to probably express myself, to find out a little more about like who I am, and like what is it exactly, like what means to me, you know, what is it like, what is the purpose of my life, to be very honest, what are the issues that I want to take up, like what is it that makes me feel that, oh my god, you know, like I need to say this thing out in the world and I need to figure out if others think like this. So yeah, my journey has been pretty interesting so far, and it has been extremely spiritual in a lot of ways, I would say, because a lot of times, because you're working with so many people, you don't end up making the film that you always envision, you know. So because one has to let go at a lot of levels, dealing with egos and trying to learn how to kind of work with a team, and it teaches you a lot of things. It's like life actually, how you approach it. So yeah, it's been pretty interesting so far. Okay, this is a very interesting question again. So the question is, given the recent advent of social networks and technology that has been slowly encroaching upon our personal space, what do you think should be the role of films? Children's films, to be specific, in sensitizing children and their parents about the nature of threat these technologies are resulting in. Okay, so see, it's an extremely important question because, especially now, you know, when most of us are working from home and you're using technology in such a huge way, and children are like having their classes on Zoom and things like that. I feel. See, technology is not bad as such. It is very important. Like, it has done so many positive things in our life. But of course, it also comes with its own ill effects. And if one is not aware of how it can affect us, that's when the problem is. So, in fact, you know what? I'm just like working on a documentary right now where so in 2018, I think in February or March, when this entire Cambridge Analytica scam had happened in US, and the experts were commenting that Facebook actually sold a lot of data to Cambridge Analytica, and it kind of, you know, affected US elections and things like that. It made a lot of noise in the entire country. And in India, Anand Mahindra had tweeted saying that, you know, if there is anyone from India who's making an app which will take care of this privacy and which would probably monetize the content, then he would like to invest in that company. So finally, he has found this company, and I'm making a documentary on the makers of this app. Okay, so it's based on blockchain technology, and it is actually so like in their words, they say likes can't feed you, you know. So they monetize, every like is monetized in fiat currency. So also since it's on blockchain technology, it is apparently very, very safe on paper also. It's not like that they're making this what do you call that, claim that it's safe. So so now the thing is, how do you tell children? Also, that of course, that advent of fake news. So there are a lot of these things that one needs to constantly engage with the children. Like, madam, but the problem is right now, what I often see is even the parents are not aware of a lot of problems, you know, which comes with technology. A lot of times by using apps without even knowing that there is so much data security threat, and there is all sorts of threat by using it, you know. So I think it's a huge I mean, like a gap that needs to be filled. First, I think the adults need to educate themselves, and then simultaneously we'll have to tell the kids how it all functions, because this entire virtual world seems to have their own politics and have their own dynamics. So unless and until these kids are made aware that whatever you see on a social media platform or whatever you see on it has to be taken at a certain face value, like this. And and I think we are becoming a generation who's reacting all the time. Like we see a post and we want to either like it, dislike it, say angry, happy, sad. Like we don't wait for anything to unfold. Even news has become like that. So anything comes and you just react and you react and you react, and then suddenly after 3-4 days when things are unfolding at its own pace, and you will be like, oh, this is what I reacted like this, but now actually this is the truth. And by the time probably you have forgotten, because you have already kind of created so much trolling has happened and all of that. And I think it is very, very important. It's a huge factor which is polarizing the entire world, and friends are becoming foes and things like that. So I think parents have to educate themselves first. I mean, like, people like us who are uh, adults who have nephews and nieces and sons and daughters, we need to know it first, because I don't think anybody bothers about it anymore. Like even if you tell them Zoom call is not safe, but I know so many people, even after knowing that it's not safe, they have been using it. So these techies were telling me, that the internet age that we Indians have especially is like very less. So right now we are very happy by just getting like free apps or anything free for that matter. But we are not paying attention to what these guys are earning out of this data, like how they say data is the new oil. So I think it's first we need to educate ourselves, and then comes the children who needs to be. So I most probably will be making a film for children which addresses these issues. Okay, someone has actually, okay, let me just take a few questions from here. Sorry. Okay, thank you guys. I'm really happy to be here. Okay, yes, we can see you. Welcome to Edinburgh. Yeah, I'm also very, very happy to be here. Glad to see you here. So does that involve a lot of context switching when you swap hats of a director and a hat of a scriptwriter? Okay, so the question Romit is asking is, so does that involve a lot of context switching when you swap hats of a director and hat of a scriptwriter? So I think it's going back to my question where I had said that, I'm okay writing my own scripts. Okay, well, not really. See, what happens is, like when you write a script, you write in a unidimensional way at times, but your director's vision kind of gives it more layers to it, and it kinds of, you kind of visualize it. So for example, if I write a boy and a girl met in, say, Bombay, so in a cafe. Now when a director comes in, I bring in another vision of, okay, how the cafe looks, what time of the day it is, or what are the colors and things like that. So I think when I am directing the film, I'm already seeing those things while writing, so a lot of details comes in. It makes the process slightly easier, but again, yeah, it kind of you can say, yeah, swap hats of director, but most of these things are like so interlinked, you can't really differentiate these roles that one takes in filmmaking. A lot of times, like, you are contributing in the art department or in the sound department and things like that. So it's like all very so when we are taught in film school, we are given knowledge of all the disciplines. Like we learn editing, we learn camera, we learn sound, we learn a bit of art direction. We are also even put in front of the camera to understand, so to have empathy for the actors, who will be out there. So yeah, so I hope I answered your question. Okay, the next is হ্যাঁ আমি ভালো আছি. Sorry, my Bengali is not that great. Do you feel it easier to work with children? Yeah, of course, I feel to work with children. So the question is, Samrat is asking is, do you feel it is easier to work with children? Yes, children has less ego. You don't have to think thrice or even twice before like telling them, like, like, let's you can do this better. Yeah, and it's so much easier. But with adults, I think we adults are like so full of ego. We have to often sugarcoat the words, or you have to be very diplomatic the way you are kind of saying things. So I really like to work with children because I feel it just makes my work so much easier. And the thing is, what, and they're so free, they don't have any inhibition, so they give you the best. They would just do all sorts of things, and they'll be like, okay, like what is good. But we adults are like, oh my god, what are these people, what will people think if we do like this, if we talk like this and all. So Ghatak said a very interesting thing, which Ritvik Ghatak had said a very interesting thing, which we often kind of discuss in when we go to FTI and Wisdom Tree. He said to make films, you have to have two things. One is your childhood in one hand, like be very childlike, and the other is alcohol on the other. Because alcohol also helps you just remove all your inhibitions, and childhood is again that uninhibited state of a human being. So yeah, I love working with children. It's amazing. Okay, then what's your future or next endeavor? Okay, so I'm already working on like three films right now. One is this documentary I just spoke about on these boys who are making this app. That's a feature-length documentary that's in the post-production state. And besides that, there's two short films that I'm working on. Even those are in the post-production state. One is just getting like done in the edit, and the other one has gone for animal sensor, that kind of thing. So, and post this, I don't know, like how things are going to shape up post this pandemic. So I'm still trying to figure out what is the kind of story that I would be able to do without risking my crew's life, because it has to be like a smaller crew, and uh, like too many things to consider right now, because it'll just probably pose this pandemic, the way we tell stories, the way we make films, it's going to affect a lot. So I'm trying to just still figure out. Right now I'm really getting fascinated with animation, so I'm just kind of like making small stuff on this app, making what do you call that, music video. So Sagar Desai, he's the music director for this film called Death in the Ganj. Also, he's a music director for Aankho Dekhi. He gave me a track he has composed, and he said, "Jo karna hai kar." So I'm just taking that and trying to make a music video out of it. So it's a Kabir song. It's a very beautiful song. I'll share it once it's done. Okay, yours has been truly interesting journey and actually a great cause study of how to chase your dreams and breaking stereotypes of being engineer or doctor. Well, yeah, thank you so much. I have got nothing against engineers and doctors. In fact, I have got nothing against any profession. But yeah, it's just like one needs to have a choice of what they want to do in life, and at whatever point in life, I think there is no age for that, to find out what you enjoy doing and what you believe in doing. And yeah, thank you. Gautam Da talked recently about mental health, very useful. As you mostly work with children, how about working on something that takes kids out of screens, mobiles, laptop, tabs, to ground and parks? Yeah, that's a very, yeah. So Samrat is writing, as you mostly work with children, how about working on something that takes kids out of screens, mobiles, laptop, tabs, to grounds or parks? Well, yeah, it's a huge issue, but sadly, because of this pandemic, they all are like stuck in their houses, and I can totally imagine what they must be going through right now, because most of them are having their classes on Zoom, and most of them are like using all these laptops and tabs so often to keep themselves busy. I can only hope things get better so that these kids can go out and play in the parks. Yeah, definitely. I would like to make something on this as well, because I mean, it's like I said, technology is good and bad, and we have to find that balance. For sure, I shall think about it. And thank you for bringing this up. You mentioned about market research results. stating that movie with children's theme, they don't make much money. Okay, Mahesh is writing this question. This is again very interesting. You mentioned about market research results stating that movie with children's theme don't make much money. Do you think it's true? Is it not the case that movie with good content should work, no matter the theme? Well, so Mahesh, being a part of Viacom for some time, the way things work in a corporate world is it's very, I don't know what's the right word, to be very honest. Uh, see good again, like good and bad content again is very it's like uh, I mean, I don't know what is good content and what is bad content. In what context do we say that is a very, very important question. And often we always bring our prejudice when we are selecting content, right? And a lot of times, what these companies do is they like to have these big mega films which have these stars, let's say like Akshay Kumar or Shah Rukh Khan or Amir, like these A-list stars. And because they know that sure shot they have X amount of fan following, so these guys are going to come and watch this film and they will make some money. So now what they do is often is that out of that profit they try to do a couple of smaller films. Now this couple of smaller films maybe like say 2 3 films or a year. And among these films, again, there's a trend where people want to make edgy content, because if you look at who are these people who are buying the tickets, mostly are these young people who go to the multiplex. According to research, they mostly do, I'm talking about. And the children, because they obviously are not making any noise and nobody is making content for them, are often fed whatever the mom and dad are watching. So you take your kids for things which are actually made for adults, but since they cannot leave the kid behind at home, usually the decision maker is the father or the mother if he wants to watch a film, so they drag him along. So it's a very tricky question. So so the children won't know that there can be, because see, the Harry Potters of the world make so much money. And I'm not talking about films have to be, there's so many other films that can actually be entertaining, as well as it could have a very big impact on these kids. I mean, there was a time when CFSI was making a lot of films, and as a child, I have seen such films while growing up, which have left an impact on me. But I don't know, with this entire corporatization of this entire film business, how things are going to change. I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, I went to US in January and I met a couple of producers out there, and that's the thing, although they have the biggest companies, Pixar and Disney, making, but they still are independent filmmakers who are struggling to push children content of a certain nature. So yeah, I don't know how to answer that question, to be very honest. Yeah. So, okay. Any more questions? Okay. Do you think indie filmmaking is transforming and garnering more interest? So, Romit is asking, do you think indie filmmaking is transforming and garnering more interest or commercial viability of late in India? Is there enough support from investors? Yes, of course it is. I think, pre-corona, I would say 5 6 years have been extremely comparatively very, very good for the indie space, because we have seen a boom in the regional cinema space. If you see, there has been some amazing films coming from all the states, be it Bengal, Assam, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and all these places. And with the OTT platform boom now, people have kind of found a place where they can showcase these films. So the situation is not as bad as it used to be, because earlier, to do a theatrical, the amount of P&A money, which is your advertising money, that was needed was huge. You know, at times, if you're spending like say 2 crore to make a small film, you would want 3 to 4 crore to do the publicity if you are releasing a film in the theater. You know, so it was bizarre because you're not getting that kind of money to make a film, but you need that money to get the audience to come to the theater. Also, see, the thing is, again, this is related to the question that has been asked before about the children film. See, a lot of times it's not that children films are not made. A lot of times people want to wait for the film to come on television, so they don't end up going to the theater. So a lot of times the distributors don't end up making the money, and so they do not encourage, they do not give enough screens for such films, you know, be it indie films, children films, and things like that. But with the OTT platform boom, of course, it's changing, and there has been a lot of film festivals like internationally where our films are doing great. So yeah, it has been an extremely amazing time for Indian films, to be very honest. But now with this entire pandemic, I don't know how things will pan out. But yeah, having said that, you know, it is affecting the entire world. It's not that only India is affected. So probably uh, collectively we will figure out a way how to get out of it, and it'll be interesting to see how, what are the kind of stories we are saying, telling, will change, you know, like probably films are going to be more personal, and probably films will be more dealing with a lot of internalized issues, because I think we all have gone through this journey during this lockdown, no matter where we are in this world. So, yeah. Okay. I can't see any more questions. If you have anything you want me to answer, I would love to answer. Or else it was great chatting with you all, and thanks a lot for watching my film, and it was amazing to get those two artworks. It was really, really heartwarming. Okay, Sumit is asking a question. Okay, he's saying a really stupid question, perhaps. How much it costs to make a film like Apples and Oranges? I'm asking because I want to know whether we NRIs can help somehow. Is there an NRI community working on this? Okay, this is a very interesting question again. So, see, the thing is, with the indie film space, it's very interesting. Okay, so Apples and Oranges. So this LXL Ideas, this company, they have like fixed budgets. You know, they make their films between like 9 to 10 lakhs, and so their budget is fixed. So they tell you to pitch your script. So they every year they have this list of topics, you know, that they give you, and you have to kind of make a film. You have to pitch an idea. So if your idea gets approved, then you write the screenplay, and they give you the money, and however you manage with that this thing. See, often what happens is in Bombay, what you actually spend up a lot is on the locations, because they're extremely expensive. You spend on actors and equipments. You know, these are the three big heads that we usually spend, because the rest of the stuff, like, we still kind of manage, because we are like a community of filmmakers. So a lot of times we pull favors and kind of do it, because we know, you know, like this is a rare opportunity where someone is giving you at least some amount of money to make a film. So coming to the other part of it, can NRIs help? Yeah, so there have been a lot of people who have been actually producing, like part producing or being part of projects. Like for example, there is a film that I was a part of last year. It's called Nirmal Anand Ki Puppy, and so the producer for this film is someone who lives in the US, and he's a businessman, and he has put in the money so that Sandeep Mohan, the director, could make a film over here. So again, it's an indie project, and I acted in that film because Sandeep is a friend of mine, and so he just kind of paid everyone like a token amount to start the film. So and then later on, when they wanted some more post-production funds, they applied for a couple of these international film festival fundings. So once the first cut is done, it's easier to ask for more fundings, you know. So yeah, there are various ways. Like the indie space is a extremely unorganized, undecided sector. You know, a lot of times people even do crowdfunding. For example, like you put up that, okay, I have this idea and, you know, I want to make a film on this and this is how much money I need to raise. So a lot of films are made on that basis. There are films which are made when parents give money to children. Like a friend of mine, he said, okay, I don't want to get married, just give me the money that you wanted to, you know, like spend on my marriage, and he made a film, you know. So there, yeah. But yeah, but there, I don't think there's a dedicated NRI community as such. But people do come out, and if they believe in a certain topic, they do kind of come out as a group of people to help these things. So it's all about like what kind of speaks to you, know, like what do you stand for, that you want to contribute to, basically. Okay, another question. Just out of curiosity, so Romit is asking, just out of curiosity, do you think web-only release of films on Netflix, Prime, etc., is helping the film industry, or would you opine otherwise? Um, See, the thing is, to be very honest, none of us would want this entire theater culture to die, to be very honest, because, you know, the kind of experience that one has in a cinema hall is it's completely different from watching it, no matter how good a TV you have, no matter how amazing a system that you have, you know, but this uninterrupted viewing of a film sitting in a theater, you know, which is dark, and sharing it with so many people is an experience I think none of us want to kind of let go, you know. So of course, like thinking of economics, you will have to have these big films which draws audience, because, you know, like we have become the popular films are the ones that draw attention, but we'll have to figure out a way where you kind of do that, plus you kind of, you know, do the smaller films with more evolved content, again I would say, and garner audience for that, you know. So how the OTT platforms are helping in this entire equation is that they're giving, like for example, now it doesn't have to rely on a theatrical release to earn all the money. You know, say suppose I am spending 4 crores in PNA, you know, to do a theatrical, and I made the film in 2 crore, and it's like a 6 crore, you know, like just to recover whatever I've invested. Earlier, it would be that, you know, you needed to recover the entire money from the theater, you know, theatrical release. But right now the burden is lessened, because, you know, okay, if I'm getting this much from this, I can also get some from satellite, which is TV, and some from the OTT platform. So it's kind of like the burden is shared. But again, you know, like people say that Netflix or any of these OTT platforms are still not making money, because a lot of times the subscribers, like, you know, a lot of people share their passwords and things like that, right? So the subscriber base is probably not, I mean, I don't know what exactly is the word, but you know, like how people share passwords, so their subscribers, the actual number that could have been has not become that. So yeah, but yeah, it is helping, it is for sure helping, like, but yeah, the theater culture can't, definitely we shouldn't let it vanish. But sadly, even in Europe, there are so many cinema halls that are shutting down because they can't afford it anymore. And I don't know in India what will be the scene, because even the big films are getting released, like Gulabo Sitabo, and then your Akshay Kumar's films, they're all releasing online on OTT platforms. But I'm sure the distributors like won't let it happen for long. Once the cinema halls open, probably then we will again see people going to the theaters. But I don't know. In Bombay, the situation is getting just worse. So one has to just like wait and watch. Okay. Okay, Tirtha is asking, who are some of the filmmakers in contemporary India you follow? I really like Sujit Sarkar's work, and I also like Srijit Mukherjee's work. And then besides this, I really like Vishal Bharadwaj's work. I think he's one of the best we have. Then who else? I think yeah, these are like one of my favorite filmmakers. I used to watch a lot of films when I was in Viacom, because, you know, we were like trying to rope in filmmakers. I used to like Anurag Kashyap's work earlier, but I think he's getting in a very different zone, which is not very palatable for me right now. But yeah. But yeah, yeah, that's what. Okay, I think, do you have any more questions? It would have been great to have a chat actually. It's just a little weird to just like look at the screen and the comments and just talk at the camera. But yeah, but never mind. I'm so glad. I'm absolutely really, really glad to be a part of this. Okay, I've been watching a lot of films on Movie. Actually, Movie India is really good. But I think you all will be in a different zone. But Movie India is actually showcasing a lot of work from films that probably a lot of us have not seen, things that have been produced by NFDC, and things like contemporary filmmakers, indie filmmakers who are making very interesting content. It has some really amazing films, but I'm not sure if you all can. It's not the same zone. I think you probably won't have Movie India. I'm not sure, but you can check that out if you have. It'll be great actually to watch that. Okay, guys, it was absolutely lovely chatting with you all. And if you all have no more questions, then thank you. Thanks a lot for having me here. It's been amazing to share my thoughts and to have these conversations. A lot of times I feel when I'm sharing things, I also get like answers to a lot of things which kind of stay in the subconscious. And Sumit and I had been in touch for the other film earlier, Cake Story, which we couldn't unfortunately do a screening because of this lot of bureaucratic things happening with my producer's office. But oh, Movie UK showing stalwarts like Money Call, etc. Yeah, yeah, Money Call is amazing. I have worked with him, in fact. Yeah, it's amazing. Thanks, Sumit. Thanks a lot. Keep making good film for children. We'll try to support filmmakers like you who make films for children. Wow, that's amazing. Thanks so much. Thanks a lot. It's been truly wonderful having you here, and all the very best. Thank you. Thank you, Ramit. Thank you. Many, many thanks. Yeah, it was amazing. I hope I get to meet you guys someday. It was lovely chatting like this. And okay, stay safe and hope we get over with this pandemic soon. And I'll share my next film with you guys. And okay, it was great having you all in this. Okay, bye.